Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer, and this week I'm joined once again by my good friend Steph Beck for a game of Inmortal, Unmasked in the main event, the acoustic cover. Inmortal, Unmasked in the main event is based on the game that I wrote with the same name. It was a submission for the Acoustic Cover Jam, in which game designers took the title of other designers' games and created essentially cover song editions of those games, which were games that explored different themes and took that title in very different directions. And let me tell you, as the designer of the other version of Inmortal, Unmasked in the main event, I love what Steph did with the acoustic cover of this game. It is so freaking cool. This is a story game about two wrestlers in a sold-out show at Korakuen Hall. The lights dim, their entrance music comes on the loudspeakers, one of the greatest professional wrestlers alive, and 2,000 people have come to see their final match. This is the story of a rivalry that spans decades and spans storylines, promotions, feuds. It is the story of the rivalry between two of the greatest wrestlers who ever lived, and it is playing out tonight in front of a packed room, and simultaneously over every single match prior in their long and storied history. I love this game. This game is so beautiful and so cool. Please go check it out. You can find your own copy of Inmortal Unmasked in the main event, the cover song edition, at garlicbreadandroses.itch.io, or you can check the show notes for more information. Steph is, as I mentioned, the designer of Inmortal Unmasked in the main event. They are also a country singer with Garlic Bread and Roses, and their music is, if I may say so, wonderful. And also they are one of my favorite people to talk about professional wrestling with, particularly Japanese wrestling and indie wrestling. You can find their music at garlicbreadandroses.bandcamp.com. You can find their games at garlicbreadandroses.itch.io, and you can find them on Twitter at Liana Edgelord. Now, one thing I do want to say before we dive in is that this episode of Party of One is sponsored by our friends at Tabletop Potluck.
Hi, we're Tabletop Potluck, an actual play podcast created to help diversify the world of mainstream tabletop role-playing games.
And make tasty recipes.
And help you find your new favorite RPG system.
And to have fun.
So check it out.
Now on all podcast directories.
Hey, come sit at our table.
Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. This week, I honestly could not be more excited to be sitting down once again with my good friend, Steph Beck. Steph, thank you so much for coming back on Party of One.
Thanks for having me.
So, real quick, at the top of the show, before we introduce the game that we are playing this week, which is one of your own design, why don't you talk about anything else that you've got going on that you might want us to know about?
So I write country songs that you can find at garlicbreadandroses.bandcamp.com. They're all very gay. Most of them are sad. Some of them are about killing cops. I also, obviously, I design games. This is one of them. I mostly do slice of life things, like small things. So no excuses. You can read them all in like 20 minutes.
They're good. All of the games of yours that I've read are very good.
Thanks. By the time this episode goes out, I should have just released an album of traditional style songs called like Songs of Death and Heartbreak or something like that, and a hack of clicks and hums and sirens and the suns called Time and Space in an Old Familiar Face. It is entirely possible that I will not have finished those things by the time this goes live. Who can say? But inshallah, I'll be there. So
this is legitimately, I will say this and I'm going to leave it on mic. This is legitimately one of my favorite things about doing the show is like, I get to hear cool things that my friends are doing. Like, as like, they're just like, here's the thing I'm going to talk about. And I hear about it for the first time and I get to lose my shit. Like, I sit in my little chair and I lose my shit and I'm very, very excited. Because I don't know if you know this, but I really love clicks and hums and sirens in the sun. So seeing hacks of it's going to make me very excited.
Yeah, it's a good fucking game. We played that last time I was here.
We did. So what are we playing this week? It is talk to us about the game that we're playing.
Yeah, so this is Inmortal Unmasked in the main event. Without an exclamation point, not to be confused with Inmortal Unmasked in the main event, exclamation point, which is by, I don't know, some game designer I've never heard of.
Who knows? Some rando.
Yeah, this was for an acoustic cover jam where you do your own version of someone else's game in the same way that like Patti Smith did her own version of Gloria. and the idea being that it should be, distinctly your thing and bear not that much resemblance to the original. So, yeah.
I'm so excited. I read this game and I read this game. I was immediately excited about it as the person that designed the Inmortal Unmasked in the main event ! I read this game and was just utterly delighted because it takes the same kind of basic story beats and takes them in a very different direction with a very specific different focus. And it's funny because if you were to ask someone which version of that game, is it the original or the cover edition, is the 2-player game that is just two players telling stories about wrestling, that's not the one that I designed. But I could not be more excited because it captures legitimately some of my favorite things in wrestling are just these long-term, years-old rivalry stories. So I can't wait to create one of these stories here on Mike today.
Yeah, absolutely. I should probably have included a page like you did of here are some matches that really influenced this game. I didn't because I published this game at 2 a.m. and I haven't gone back and looked at it. I really should. But I don't know, kind of my two biggest reference points were Hiroyoshi Tenzan, Takashi Iizuka, and Tam Nakano Kagetsu as the two big friendships turned rivalries turned final retirement match.
It's just such a perfect, it is such a good story, and it's one that when it hits just right, there's nothing quite like it. I came into wrestling at the very end, kind of at the very end of this before it became something different that I was less invested in, but I came into wrestling, I started watching wrestling right before El Generico disappeared from wrestling forever, and so the El Generico
Whatever happened to that guy?
Orphanage in Mexico. He's doing great. Right before when he left was right when I got into wrestling, so that was the first time that was the first long time rival story, so that's always had a very close place in my heart. And then there's a handful of others where it's anytime it's that perfect moment when two guys are in a rumble or a battle royal and they turn to face each other and you just go, oh shit, oh no. It's all
there's history here.
It's my favorite. It's my absolute favorite. Well, I think we've talked about this enough. I'm ready to get into it. Should we read the opening monologue and then get into the actual scenes?
Yeah. So it's a sold-out show at Korakuen Hall. The lights dim, your entrance music comes on the loudspeakers. You are El Inmortal, one of the greatest professional wrestlers alive, and 2,000 people have come to see your final match. Your star has faded since your main event days, but the real heads know who you are and what you mean to this sport. Your mask is iconic. You revitalized Mexican-style wrestling in Japan. You helped bring your home promotion from near bankruptcy to international success. You trained a generation of stars, many of whom still make bank off moves and gimmick matches you innovated. And tonight you retire in style, in a mask versus mask match against your greatest rival. Your rival complements you perfectly. If you're big and strong, they're small and fast. If you're brash and boisterous, they're stoic and reserved. If you're working heel, they're working face. Even your masks are matched opposites. You came up in this industry together, and in many ways you owe each other your careers. All but a few of your best matches were with them, so of course they have to be the one to take your mask. You climb through the ropes and lock eyes with your rival. The sounds of the bell, of the crowd, of the ring underneath you bring back a flood of memories. In this game, you, as El Inmortal, and a friend as your rival, will play through a series of 7 scenes, each representing important moments in your long and storied wrestling careers. Together, you will tell the story of friendship and betrayal that you made your names on.
Great intro. I'm so... that rules. I'm so... any game that starts out with a shout out to Korakuen Hall is my immediate favorite, and so, no, it's real good. It's real good is the thing.
I went and looked up the venue capacity to make sure that I got that right.
That is, I appreciate that. That is a detail that has put the biggest smile on my face. God, I'm getting emotional thinking about a wrestling venue, which can tell you how long it's been since I've been at a wrestling venue. But
Yeah,
God, it's good.
I
It's
remember
good.
shows.
Yeah, right. Remember shows? Remember wrestling? It was
I
great.
remember going places and seeing people.
Vaguely. All right. So, like you said, we are going to play through 7 scenes. Each scene is going to give us some flavor text as well as answer some questions that we are going to flesh out through scene play, through describing things, just kind of talking through this rivalry between Inmortal and their great rival. I'm thinking we should probably answer a question or two. Well, actually, let me ask you: should we answer a question or two about like our rival, or is that something that we're gonna, or about who each of us are, or is that something that we're gonna flesh out as we play through?
I think I would like to be El Inmortal.
Okay, cool. Talk to me a little bit about what El Inmortal's like aesthetic is, wrestling style, build, that sort of thing is as they come into their final match.
Yeah. So because like the development of the aesthetics is so important, I do kind of want to start at the beginning from there.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds great.
But I do want to say that Scottish luchador is kind of the aesthetic that I'm holding on to right now.
Okay, I got that. That is a good aesthetic to hold in each of our minds as we answer through the questions, and we'll get.
Yeah, and my only question I think I have before we go into it is so one thing that I made intentionally ambiguous in this game is how like kayfabe compliant it is, which should we define wrestling terms as?
Well, I think we probably can. Kayfabe is the fiction of wrestling. It is the illusion that wrestling is a thing that is real. So how real? So I guess the question is, how real do you want to play all of the things that we're going to play through here in the game itself?
I definitely prefer the behind the scenes drama of wrestling storytelling, but like I do also see a lot of value in either.
I feel like I'm very much on the same page, and I think like to me it's one of those things where the really kind of like magical like rivalry stories are the ones that have that backstage element, and the ones that like it becomes something that is simultaneously like on screen and off, where it makes everything kind of real in its own way, like in its way that like even as you know that everything is staged, there's that element of like, but this is the one real thing. It's to quote the thing that inspired the Jeff Stormer version of the game, which is the Mountain Goat song Unmasked. It's the cast of thousands and we were the real two. It's that feeling of like everything here is staged, but what we have gone through on screen and off is the real story amidst all of the pageantry.
For sure.
Perfect. Yeah,
cool.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, I will go ahead and read us through our first match, and then we will answer some questions, and we will meet our wrestlers. First match. Everyone starts somewhere. This may or may not be the actual first match you worked at a real show, but it was certainly your first match with the one who would become your rival. You were both trainees then, green and still innocent. Your technical skill left much to be desired, but you were only allowed a handful of moves, but even at this stage, it was clear that the two of you had a special chemistry. Describe together how you connected with a crowd who expected nothing from you. What did you each discover in yourselves that would help define your careers? So this is the visual that I'm getting here is, I feel like I like the visual that it starts and ends at Korakuen Hall, which if you're listening to this and you don't know what that looks like, Google Korakuen Hall. It is a very famous wrestling venue. It is one that virtually every company that has run shows in Japan has run at some point. And it is a venue with a great deal of history, and it is a venue that I get very emotional thinking about.
If you've ever watched Hajime no Ippo, which is a really famous boxing anime, most of the big fights are at Korakuen Hall.
So I like the idea that we start and end at Korakuen, especially because I love the idea, like, having watched a lot of Young Lion matches at the start of Korakuen Hall shows,
Yeah.
That aesthetic is very clear in my mind of, like, people are just filing in as we are doing our match together, and the idea of capturing that audience that like half of them are not in their seats is very compelling to me.
Yeah. Okay. So in that case, I think the visual that comes most clearly to mind for me is like, I think what we see as the audience is the first paragraph of description of like the show and the lights. I think we see that in first person, and like, you know, it's sweeping over the sold out crowd, and like you see the big, you know, mask versus mask banner, like with you know, some wrestlers' pictures on it, but it's in shadow because we haven't seen us yet.
Yep.
And then when it gets to the place where we would make our entrance, like I think I step out as a young lion, and I am just this child.
I love it.
When it zooms back out, the audience is mostly not there, and
It's very good.
and it's like a Road 2 show. It's not even like a real show.
Yeah. It is absolutely like it is like the fourth match of a tour, or even like the middle of a tournament. Like it could not be less of anything.
And yeah, I think I'm definitely a high flyer. I'm not high flying yet, but I'm just like very like physically small, smaller than some of the people in chairs that I walk past.
Yeah.
And like I'm definitely picturing this just like, you know, scrawny kid with like a you know, a solid black like pompadour, like looks like I did this, like put my hair up right before the match kind of thing.
Oh, then the visual that I get from me immediately is it's my favorite. It is my favorite young lion build, which is just like indiscriminately big. Just big, like not quite like looks like I could be if I were to be made like a full-time wrestler, become ripped, but right now I'm just large. I think I have the full shaved head, and am just like just a walking barrel. And I get the most mileage out of the young lion Boston Crab, which is the only finisher that we're allowed to do.
Yeah.
And I've added the innovation where I jump up and down when I do it, and that is the thing the thing that I add to it.
Oh, totally. And I think, okay, so then I think, you know, the match starts. I think you go right for it, right? And like you start jumping up and down, and I think I like try to pull off a Hurricane Rana out of it. It doesn't really look great. It's kind of awkward because I haven't really learned how to do this.
Yeah.
But the fact that I'm going for it kind of takes the audience a little off guard.
Yeah, it's not really a move that we're traditionally like allowed to do in matches, and so it's kind of a big pop moment.
Yeah, gonna get a talking to from the coach on the way back. But for the moment, people are at least looking up from their cell phones.
I love that. I think that the thing that like I do to draw attention is like after this, I picture if you are a high flyer, there's absolutely like several sequences which is just you as all momentum, like as a pinball. And I'm doing the strong style thing of like you pinball at me and I just don't even budge.
Oh yeah, I bounce off the ropes like 5 times, and then when I finally try to clothesline you, you just like elbow me in the neck, and I fall over.
Yeah,
just crumple like glass.
Facing off against you, I seem legitimately like a gigantic. I seem like a legitimate like powerhouse wrestler as opposed to a kid who is slightly larger than you.
Totally, and I think the main thing that I have going for me at this stage in my career isn't that I'm actually good at moves. I think it's just that I have no sense of dignity when I sell. Like I don't care about looking strong, so I can make whoever's fighting with me look okay. You know what I mean? And so like because you're like I think because you don't fully know how to pull your punches yet. I mean, elbows.
It can be two things.
Yeah. I think like what we bring out in each other here is like because I'm selling so hard and you're like working stiffer than you probably should, like hitting harder than you should. I think Yeah, I think this match just ends up looking a lot harder than a Young Lion match is supposed to, and I think we end up having to call it a little bit early because I'm like actually like a little dazed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And I think the other thing, playing off of the opposites idea, the other half of it is I legitimately am not good at selling, at least not at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of, and like that coupled with with how hard you are selling, like actually kind of makes that weakness look like a little bit of a strength, where it's like, look how little they're being phased. Like look how little all of this is impacting them, when really it's just like, I don't have those movements yet, but it looks like I'm getting knocked down and just like climbing back up. And it's really just, I haven't worked out how to sell things yet, but against you, I look like I am like, it looks like this is a very intentional act. Whereas against anybody else, it would look like, oh, this kid is just no selling all of the things.
Yeah. And I think you take this match and you come out of it looking like a powerhouse in a way that you're honestly not supposed to.
Yeah,
at this
100%.
point. And the finish is just, and I think, oh, you know what it is? If you're doing the Boston Crab again, and I think you end up jumping on me.
Mm. Yeah.
Like, instead of just jumping up and down while I'm, like, on the floor, you end up, like, slipping and falling onto me, and, like, that's when I tap, and it's earlier than it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's really good.
But it looks like a planned moment to an audience who, like, didn't expect anything.
That's really very good. And I think that's the end of the match. So would you like to read heavily edited podcast? Would you like to introduce us to scene number 2?
Yeah. So, team debut. Years of training have finally paid off. You've had matches in front of crowds before, but this felt like being born anew. You and the one who would become your rival donned masks for the first time and stepped into the ring as a team. Describe your masks together. What did they mean to you? So, like, I already said that my immediate thought was Inmortal, and then it's just Luchador Highlander.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I have a tartan mask.
I like that. I was thinking very specifically because, like, the things that we had talked about in the, like, before we started play, like, the visual, and it plays really nicely with what like has been introduced for my character last scene, and I think plays really nicely off of this, like, tartan mask idea, is, like, I picture that I have, like, ram's horns. Like,
Ooh,
kind of, like,
sick.
decorative, or, like, kind of, like, stitched, almost like Drago in AAA Lucha Underground, where it's got that kind of those sort of sculpted spikes. It's that kind of effect, but, like, ram's horns that kind of, like, go around my face and around, like, my orbital bones.
Hell yeah. What's your ring name?
My ring name is I'm gonna go with Battering Ram. I think that ties nicely with the ram horns. I've been named Battering Ram, and I think I got it. I think I got this name. I'm gonna say I got this name on Excursion. This was a name that was, like, handed to me. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those cases where, like, the Excursion gimmick sticks in a really way that they can't quite completely rebrand me when they bring me back over, because, like, it just happened to kind of pick up a small amount of steam.
Totally. Yeah, this was in, like, where did we do our excursion, do you think?
Where I immediately pictured it, and it is because I have a painful history with wrestlers that I love doing excursions here, which is, like, the Ohio Midwest region.
Oof.
It's a rough place where a wrestler that I loved went, and
which one?
Shigehiro Irie.
Oh yeah, Mr. Grumpy Face.
Mr. Grumpy Face went to Ohio. He was DDT champion at the time. He was the KOD Openweight champion. Mm-hmm. He lost the title in Ohio to Sami Callihan. won it back the next day, but it was never addressed on on anything DDT outside of a 1 minute, like, panicked GM announcement of like, hey, our champion has lost the belt. We're trying to figure out what has happened. And so
God,
it may have been a case where Sami Callihan conned his way into winning a championship. It is unclear. And I don't have that information. All I have is the vibes that all of those things had given me.
God. Yeah. I know him mostly from All Japan, and he just always makes this face like he just stepped in a really deep puddle that was like deeper than he expected.
It's a great face. It is. I love him to death.
Which, by the way, if you're listening to this and you aren't watching All Japan, you should be watching All Japan Pro Wrestling. It's the most underrated promotion in the world. Okay.
You should also be watching DDT. It is a slightly less underrated promotion because it's been picking up steam, but it's my favorite, and they're both All Japan and DDT are both very good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna plug my favorite promotions at the end when we do social medias, but like
I feel like that is not only acceptable but encouraged, and frankly, I wish more people took advantage of that.
Yeah, but the game that we're playing.
Right, we are playing a game.
Yeah, so we're in fucking Ohio.
Yeah, I think I think we've come together in Ohio when we've been given these particular gimmicks. These feel very Ohio. There's something Ohio about them, and I can't put that into words.
Columbus action wrestling.
Oh, that is painful.
Caw, if you will.
That's rough, and it's perfect. So the match wasn't perfect, but it was electric nonetheless. Describe how we covered each other's weaknesses and learned to amplify each other's strengths. What rookie mistakes did we make, and what great moments did we create accidentally? I'm for sure still working stiff.
Yeah. You probably haven't learned to sell much either.
Yeah, probably. Like if anything, I've probably gotten a little worse because like I had that immediate success with those kind of initial like Young Lion matches. So like I probably haven't just not learned. I've probably like gotten a little
learned
worse.
The wrong lesson.
Yeah, I've internalized the wrong things, which probably leads into an actual like not good moment of like I probably stiff someone pretty hard.
Word. And I think okay. So inspired by one of my favorite wrestlers right now, Yuko Sakurai. I think I just can't run convincingly.
Oh no! Oh no!
Like, I don't move my upper body at all when I run, and so the movement just looks really awkward. So I go into these, like, you know, like, I'm, like, allowed to do real moves now. So I'm, like, trying to take advantage of that by doing these, like, high-flying moves. And, like, I can jump and, you know, like, do flips. Not, like, great flips, but, like, you know, I can do a kind of clumsy shooting star press. But I'll try to like run into a move and it will just look so like stiff and wooden until I am off the ground.
Oh, that is real. That pain is real, and it is physically hurting me thinking about it. But I do have a great moment then that ties both of those things together, like kind of accidentally. If it is. It ties into also my absolute favorite kind of, my favorite, number one favorite, all-time favorite tag team wrestling maneuver is if you can't run convincingly, and my thing is that I go too hard, I feel like there's probably, that opens it up for a moment where, like...
A fastball special?
Exactly, a fastball special, where I just grab you and whip you, like wing you at the other team, and it is like a completely called audible, but I just kind of pick you up, sort of do a spin and kind of discus you at the other team, and you just collide with them, and because you're so good at like selling when you hit them, it feel like, you know, there's only so much that you can pull back when you are being thrown by another human, but there's that way that you kind of like stick the landing and you do this like fish flop that just makes it look like you have been flung at this other team at about like 200 miles an hour.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And I definitely think that our opponents in Ka are like whoever the local tag team champs are, right? And I think they're making a really big deal out of, all the way from Japan. And like, like they're trying to sell us as these like cool foreign wrestlers to people who don't know what a young lion is.
Yeah.
And I think that is the moment where people actually look up and we seem like what we've been pitched as.
Yeah. Side note, there is an Okada match from when he was at Young Lion where he wrestled a show in Barnesville, Pennsylvania.
Rip.
It is one of the greatest things to watch a crowd watch a person who will eventually become probably one of the greatest wrestlers in the world just being like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to react to this. It's very good, and that you saying that just brought into mind Okada in Barnesville, and I wanted to talk about that for just a second because it's important.
I've never been an Okada fan, but I do want to find that.
It is very worth watching just for the weirdness of it. All right. Do we have anything else we want to throw into this match, or do we want to go into our next scene?
We definitely don't win this match, right?
No, God, no. We're not. This is like, and I think that nobody kind of expects us to win, which makes that moment where we seem like a big deal even bigger, because like they announced this is for the titles, and like no one like they're not losing these titles to us.
Yeah, and I think and I think like these are relatively new champs, and this is one of their first defenses. And I think what ends up happening is that like we end up putting them over more than they kind of already were. Like it seemed like when they were like coming into the entrance that they were like people liked them, but like they weren't like the local heroes that they'd unseated.
Yeah,
like a show or two before, and I think we helped them get that moment.
I adore that. I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and their gimmick is some like very cliche, like, oh, we're wrestling plumbers or something like that.
Yeah, I think what it is, I think what I want to throw out is like, yeah, they maybe even like went into this gimmick as like wrestling plumbers, but like starting the next show because of like the kind of accidental moments of like the accidental stiffness that I threw in and throwing you at them, like they're kind of able to pivot next show into being a little bit more of the like for lack of a better way to put it, dirtbag indie wrestler of like instead of wearing our work shirts, we come in with the work shirts and the sleeves are cut off underneath, like they're able to kind of like shed a little bit of the like harshness of the we're working a job gimmick because of like how much of a fight this match kind of turned out to be unexpectedly.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and I think where we should wrap this up, because I don't know if we fully answered what our masks mean to us. And I think like when we're watching this as the audience, I think there's a moment where we're like at the merch table and like a couple teenagers who like don't know very much about wrestling come up to us, and like we don't understand what they're saying, but the thing that stands out the most is that they say that they'll definitely be watching our promotion. Yeah, that's cool as hell. And like they ask for the website. That's cool. That's super cool. And like somebody has to translate for us or something. That's very good. And I think like the realization that by like creating these kind of these kind of like iconic like artificial identities, we're not just representing ourselves anymore, we're representing our country and our company. That's cool as hell. Yeah, and like we're part of something bigger. We're representing each other. Yeah, and we've built something bigger than what we were on our own, and bigger than what we were before this match, and that's a lot. Like that takes a lot to do, and to be able to kind of point to the moment where that happens is kind of incredible. Yeah, I love that. And I think that's where we can leave that scene unless you have something. No, that's perfect. So next we have Team Triumph. It happened so fast. Your team's rise up the card felt like a dream. One day you were the rookie openers, then seemingly overnight you were serious title contenders. Describe together how you grew into yourselves over the course of your tag team run. How did you inspire each other to improve, and were there any ways you held each other back? I definitely taught you to sell, right? Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like, I think Oh god, I just picture like a very like 80s training montage of like you know, you're no selling everything and then it cuts to us backstage and I'm like trying to teach you to just like collapse or
Yeah.
at least to like stagger a little bit, and then you know you slowly get better and better at this, like, you know, stagger back and like fall forward,
Yeah.
like a fist of the North Star kind of thing.
I think how I grow into myself, and also one of the ways I inspire you to improve at the same time, is I think I grow into this kind of like very scary looking like ram's horn mask. Like I grow at that, and my build, like I bulk up and I grow into the mask a little bit, and like I become a lot more intimidating. Like I figure out how to kind of like intentionally be that monster instead of sort of like stumbling into it. And I think that like I think I'm able to. I don't think I teach you to run. I just don't think that's a thing that I'm able to teach you, but I think there's an element of like possibly one of the things that like kept you from knowing how to run is like there's a very specific skill, and it's a very specific thing that you see in wrestlers, especially young wrestlers, of like trying to think about the next thing. Like there are wrestlers where you will see them stop, like, or not, like sometimes stop literally, but oftentimes like you'll just see the wheels turning in their head of like, okay, I did this, now I have to do this in order to set up, like you watch them walking through the steps that they talked through. And I think I maybe taught you a little bit of like
Just going for it.
Just got to go for it. You just got to do what your mask would do in that moment.
Totally. Yeah, and I think like, you know, growing into myself and like becoming the mask in that sense, I think the way that kind of manifests in like, because like I think we're still doing the training montage, but it's not of me learning to run. It's of me getting like cockier, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can kind of see in the early matches, like my moves are like surprisingly fluid for where I'm at, but there's nothing behind them.
Yeah.
And so it's not me like doing cool flips or anything. It's just like, it's a close up on my eyes as I'm like throwing a punch, and you can kind of see the fire slowly light.
Yeah. I love that. I adore that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And before anyone knew it, you were undeniable. Describe together the moment you became true stars. Did either of you feel ready for the push you received? How did the future seem then? Looking back, what were you proudest of?
I don't think that I feel ready for the push. I don't think, I think I want to take my answer a little bit. And because I think this also touches on an element of like how I held you back a little bit. I think I always felt like a tag team guy. I think I always thought of myself as a tag team wrestler.
No, that totally makes sense. And I definitely think that Inmortal, like, definitely, like, I think this wasn't how I thought of myself when I was a young lion. I always kind of thought I'd be a tag team guy, but I think once I was actually in the mask and I was really comfortable with it, that I was like, no, I am destined for singles stardom. You know, one day I'll be like doing fucking Phoenix splashes off like the roof or whatever.
Yeah.
And like that'll be who I am. And I think a way that I held you back is that I like kept you from being noticed by like kind of being a spotlight hog.
And I feel like it's to me, like the future kind of looks like that's always going to be the case, and like I'm always going to be in that supporting role. And like I think there's an element of like I don't think that I think that's a bad thing. I get a vibe of like I see this is where I'm supposed to be, right? Like I see this is my role in things, is to be kind of the supporting player. And like I there's almost an element of guilt, I think. There's almost an element of like as long as you are on my side, as long as you are in my corner, like you're always going to be a star who also has this other person with them.
Totally.
So what are you most proud of?
I mean, like, yeah, I think that our, like, kind of star-making moment, right? I don't think it has to be that we got the tag team belts, but I think it's like we won the tag league.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Like, whether we got the belts or not, our story is what people were talking about.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, we were kind of expected to go out first round, and we got a big shock win over, I don't know, probably like the reigning champions, right?
Yeah, and the reigning champions here are a consummate large wrestler team. They are the epitome of the strong style, which is just two just gigantic slabs of beef in black trunks with no other ostensible discerning characteristics other than just they are very, very big.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they're definitely like guys who've been doing this forever, right?
For
like
ages.
They're in their like 4th or 5th tag team reign together.
Yeah.
And their name is definitely something like dramatic and single word.
Yeah, it is, let's see, what is a good one? It is,
Revocation.
Revocation is very good shit. Yeah, Revocation, they are, like, they like, if you were to look at a picture of Revocation, you would be like, I could not differentiate these two wrestlers, but for the real heads who have been watching for years, Revocation, it's like, oh yeah, that's the one that's more of the fired up one, that one's the tank, like, they have a whole they have their own mini game of El Inmortal that they've played through several times at this point.
Totally. Oh, the R, V, and N are all capitalized.
Yep, that feels right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, because, like, I don't think the company's doing great at this point. I think they're, like, leaning really hard on old stars. And I think there's kind of a fan expectation going into this tournament, like, oh, this is another tournament we could skip, right? Mm-hmm. Because, like, they're just going to give it to the old guys again. And then the old guys go out.
Yeah.
First round.
Yeah, I love that.
Like, oh, I think our team finisher is you do the Boston Crab, but you jump on them on purpose this time. And like, I do some kind of like, I just do some kind of like flip off the ropes, like, while you're doing that.
Yeah.
And I think like this match is like, not that long. I think like, short punchy matches that like there's that moment where the crowd is like, yeah, okay, this is the opener. Wait, that's it? Mm-hmm. They won?
Yeah, I adore that. That's phenomenal.
And there's definitely this shot like after the bell rings of us like looking into the camera, and you can see in our eyes that like we're doing everything we can to convey that we didn't expect this either.
Yep. And I think the thing that I am most proud of, I think the closing beat of this scene is the thing that I am most proud of is you. Like tying into that idea of like, I see myself as the supporting player and I see you as the breakout star. It's that sense of like it like you like look like $1 million coming out of this match, and like there's that tag team finisher where what I picture is like, I kind of like when I'm jumping up about to like jump on them, you kind of jump like on me, and then we both just crash down on them. And like you just come down like a fireball, and like it looks like I have been shot in the back with a gun.
Word. Yeah, and I think that like there's a shot of like the camera like of the event as it's airing is like kind of lingering on me, like helping you back up after the bell rings, and us like hugging when we realize we've won. And I think like at the time, the way that the future seemed was just, I'm gonna be this star, I'm gonna be this huge breakout. But looking back, the thing that I'm really proud of is just that I conveyed to the audience that we had this friendship. Yeah. Like, that we had something that we could draw on later for storytelling.
I love that.
And it was something I didn't realize I was doing then, that I, like, only realized, like, years in retrospect.
I adore that. That's fantastic. Which brings us to scene number 4, the heel turn. Things fall apart. A tag team cannot hold. Maybe the tension had been building for a while, or maybe the audience was completely caught off guard, but either way, one of you turned dramatically against the other. The hurt and anger of this moment would drive the feud that defined your career. Who do we think turned? I have an idea, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I want to turn.
Okay, yeah, that works.
There are definitely wrestling games where I'm like, I don't play the heel, but it is always my first choice to play the heel in wrestling games.
No, that's fair. That's fair and valid.
I like sometime within the next year or two when I like finish moving and I'm like actually going to wrestling school, like that's where I'm trying to head with my career. Is I want to be a mid-card comedy heel. This is my
what
life.
A dream! Like what a dream! Frankly, I want this for you. Okay, so you're turning. So describe the circumstances around the betrayal. What were you and your fans feeling right before this happened? Looking back, could the story have gone any other way?
Yeah. I think. Oh, you know what it is? I think like the company has realized that people see you as kind of second banana, and rather than like leaning too far into this, I think like they go almost the like they make it a character beat, so that the story is being told is that when like it's like 2 years later. I think we've both grown a little bit. Like we are physically larger, but also just like like more confident. Yeah. And like we've had these belts for a while. We're like actually a draw now, and I think that that the story becomes like we don't do well in this tournament. We just eat shit like in match after match. And I think like there's just like increasing beats of me just being shitty to you after the match. Yeah. Like it's always your fault that we lost. Even though like the camera clearly shows moments where I don't get to you in time, or like when I like somebody rolls away and I fall in my face and get pinned, but it's always your fault somehow. Yeah. And I think like that's and I think that's like the lead up to it, right? And like the final straw is, I think the final straw is like in the championship match at the like big event of the year to like determine whether the people who won the tournament, who are our opponents? Who do you think?
It is, at this point, I think we have a working relationship with another company, and it is like their champion. So it is like a champion versus champion match that it's kind of assumed that like, and I think tying into the idea that this is like a character beat, like this is not something that necessarily like shocked the world. It's like, it's one of those, you know the kind of matches. It's one of those matches where like something's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Where like there is no way that either of these matches, there's no way that the clean finish happens in either direction. Like it has to end with an asterisk, and I think that it just kind of adds to that sort of like awful sense of inevitability, where it's like, well, yeah, like everybody kind of in the back of their mind is going into that match going like, well, yeah, something's going to happen. Like neither company's just going to have their champions get pinned. And
totally,
like when you look at it, you're just like, well, that's what's coming. Like we know you see it, you see the train wreck happening in slow motion.
Oh, and okay, so I think like up to this point we've been like faces, like, when I'm mean to you, I'm just being petty and shitty, but I'm not being evil.
It's funny. It's funny and charming. Like it's charming. It's goofy.
Yeah, and I think the champions, the tag champions at this other company, are like much more in the like traditional like strong style heel, like, like look like Yakuza toughs kind of guys.
Yep.
Like the very like 70s like slick back hair. They come in matching like matching like deep V button ups kind of thing.
100%. 100% could not have a clearer picture in mind.
Yeah. Like you cloned Bunta Sugawara. And yeah, and so I think like they just cheat blatantly.
Yeah.
Like one of them, like they've got whatever signature weapon, like I think they just take one of us like all the way out to the entrance ramp and then just like hit us with a baseball bat.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
And so we get pinned, but we only get pinned because they used weapons.
Yeah.
And I think the moment of the moment of the betrayal is yours to describe, but that is, I think, the lead up to it.
I think, yeah, and I think what happens is like, I think it's you that gets hit with the baseball bat. Like, I think it could not be more blatantly, like, not my fault, right? Like, just to add to kind of, and it's this moment of, like, it almost, like, to the fans that know that something is coming, it almost has the energy of, is it actually going to be El Inmortal? Are they actually going to be the one, like, you know what I mean? Like, you've been mean to me for a couple weeks, then suddenly, like, you're hit with a bat. It's this element of, am I gonna see something different? So I think it's something where, like, I think it's the fans almost think it could be misdirected, and then you come back into the ring, and like it's everything that they expected, and that makes it even worse. Like, you hit me with the baseball bat, like you've brought the baseball bat in, and it is every bit. It is the vibe of like, oh, it actually was exactly what we thought.
Sure is.
Because sometimes that hurts the worst of all.
Oh God. I have this really clear picture of, like, one of the Yakuza guys tries to take his bat back from me as I'm beating you, and I kick him off to keep doing it.
Yeah. Oh, that's real good. You and your rival were different after the turn. When each of you appeared next, you had new masks and new attitudes. Describe your masks separately. What did they mean to each of you? I think I still have the ram's horns, but the rest of my outfit is skeleton themed and is like broken bone themed. Like, my mask is like now like sort of bone colored, and there are like visible large black cracks throughout my mask and across the bones, and like one of the horns is sewn to be like broken in half, so like they're mismatched. Like, one of them goes all the way around and one of them only goes halfway, and like the betrayal, the actual like attack, like is integrated into my outfit, and I am now called Undead. They've given me a new name, and I am simply Undead.
That's sick. And I think I remain El Inmortal, but like, where previously, my, like, the tartan mask had just been very like, like red and green, like very like stereotypical, just like picture a kilt, there it is. I think my new one is like, it's very like black with like thin red lines over it.
Love it.
Like, I look like a super villain, and I think I start. Oh God, they start playing the Highlander theme just straight up.
Love it. Fantastic.
And they do, yeah, like, Princes of the Universe, and they do it without clearing the copyright.
Never.
So on international broadcasts, they have to mute it.
I love muted entrances. They're my favorite.
Yeah, which, for those of you who don't watch Japanese wrestling, I mean, you should. It's, the best wrestling in the world, but also you do have to deal with so much of that because companies don't give a shit about copyright unless they're like pretty sure they're going to get sued.
Yeah, every time like the crowd will be cheering and it just goes dead silent. You're like, all right, who's it going to be? It gets me excited every time.
Yeah, and part of my entrance is I think I like hold the baseball bat aloft with two hands like a sword. Yep.
That's great. That's real good.
I think I just carry it now.
brings us to, would you like to read the feud?
Yeah. The feud. The story you will both be remembered for. Maybe this feud burned bright and short, and maybe it lasted years. In any case, you and your rival did the best work of both of your careers here. Every match felt like life or death, and in some ways it really was. Describe separately how each of you learned to stand on your own. What did you bring out in yourselves that surprised audiences? What did you bring out in yourselves that surprised each other?
I am picturing that these are straight up, like, maybe, like, I don't think they're literally death matches, but they are closer than maybe our promotion has ever gotten before. And I think I think that's what surprises audiences. I think that is what Undead has brought out that surprised audiences, is like, I've always kind of been sort of the base, right? Like, I've always been the person that people jump off of, and now it's like I am just bashing you with objects, and there's like a real violence that I think has surprised the audience, and I think that's also what has surprised me. Like, that is the thing, is like there's just a decided sense of like brutal bloody violence that goes into the matches that we have in this feud.
Oh, totally. Our first match back, like after the breakup, I think our first like big singles match, it's a chain match. And I think the thing that I bring out in myself that surprised audiences is I've never been a striker.
Yeah.
You know, I've always been like, you know, flying kicks and flips. I don't do any of that, at least not this match. This is all about like, okay, how can I choke you with this chain?
I love that.
You know, how can I, you know, hit you with this chain? And it's like, it seems like me trying to do your style. And I don't know if it's one of those things where it's like, critics are like, I don't know if this works, but it sure is interesting.
Yeah. It feels
Like, really
right for this
cool.
moment, even if it doesn't necessarily feel right for you outside of this.
Yeah. Very like, immediately post heel turn Takashi Iizuka kind of moment. And yeah, and I think the thing that I brought out that surprised you is I have just, oh god, it's a dick move, but I kind of don't sell as many of your shots as, like I got famous like because I could just crumple like glass on command, and I think like in my like trying to get myself over and trying to look strong, I think I'm worrying about that for the first time in my life, and so like you know, you throw what's supposed to be the big elbow shot that knocks me over, and I just don't.
I love it so much. I think I surprise you. I think I surprise you by like actually like. I think it is that like. I think I'm going back to being stiff at this point. I think I've been in the last several years like kind of a safe,
knocking me over the hard way.
Yeah, kind of a safe support, like a support figure, right? Like I've been a safe tag team wrestler, and now like fans are like, oh wow, we haven't seen this level of like violence like we haven't seen these kind of punches in a long time. Those handful of fans that were in the crowd for the Young Lions matches are like, oh, this is what it was like. Oh no.
Yeah.
It all ended at the main event of the first show of the year, the biggest stage of your lives. Describe together how you went the extra mile trying to make this match unforgettable. What did you do here that you had never done before? Was it the finale this story deserved?
Can I make a proposition? Exploding bat match.
There's no way this doesn't end in an explosion.
And I think, you know, because this isn't a deathmatch company, like there's maybe one or two actual bat hits in the whole match. But like the fact that this company is doing it all is like doing this at like at all is just like such a, you know, such a like huge turn that like people kind of weren't expecting.
Yeah. It isn't a match that this company has ever run before. And I think it is the finale this rivalry deserves, because we really do just like even if we don't hit each other with the bat, we just beat the living hell out of each other, right? Like, it's not like the best, like, violent matches. Like, there's no point in which this feels like a wrestling match. It feels like a fight from moment one. There is no like collar and elbow lockup. It's just we start throwing hands and we don't stop until somebody gets hit with an exploding bat.
Oh god, I think the one real high-flying spot I try to do in this match is I hit the button that activates the current to the bat, and I try to like hit you with it off the top rope, and you roll out of the way, and I just slam myself onto the floor, onto my chest, and I just take this explosion.
Yeah.
And like there is like you pick the bat up and hit me with it, because like, that was the finish. But I think I'm definitely like pushing through like way more pain than I realized this was gonna be, because I'd never done this before.
I love that. I adore it. That's fantastic.
But like the planned finale and the moment that fans mostly talk about when they talk about this match is just that shot of like you hitting me with the bat when the like after you get the pin, after the bell rings, you just like pick it up again and hit me with it again, and the refs have to like come and take the bat from you.
Yeah.
And that like, we've been through just every type of hardcore match, like a no DQ match. We've been through, the chain match, like just like all these like gimmick matches and just like big fights. And I think like this brings it full circle. Like started with me hitting you with a bat and you're like, fine, I can use weapons too.
I love it. It's perfect. And I think this segues really nicely into number 6 of like what comes from this, which is separate ways. Nothing lasts forever. You and your rival had ambitions outside of each other, and of course the company had plans for both of you. Describe separately how each of you moved on from the other and built a career by yourself. What goals were you now free to pursue? What circumstances forced your hands? I think like that violence like changes my character and my like trajectory forever, even if I am not necessarily ever like made into a full heel. Like I am forever cast as the like being in that match like has forever cast me as like a violent, like between being renamed undead, like I am always going to be that like violent figure. Like that idea that I was gonna settle into a nice safe career as a tag wrestler like is gone now, because I am always going to be the scary undead skeleton that goes after people violently.
Word. And okay, so what goals were you now free to pursue?
I think that the goal that I was free to pursue now was I think I never go after the top title, but I think there's like a secondary belt or a tertiary belt. There's like the equivalent of the never open weight, where it's just like the sort of like weird specialty belt that they have that becomes like my title, right? And that becomes like not quite a hardcore belt, not quite a strong style belt. It just becomes this is where you go for weird matches that we're not gonna feature like anywhere else on the card. Like this becomes like a style of belt that is like, if you are a fan of this, you are a fan, like this is the belt that you care about, and you're not gonna care about anything else on the card.
Word. Yeah. And I think so like starting with the last question, what circumstances forced your hands? I think I left the company for like a year or two. Like at first just to recover from injuries, but then when I came back it wasn't here. It was like on the indies.
Ooh, I like that.
And it wasn't because the money was better. It wasn't because I was trying to like escape anything. It was just because like I knew that if I went back to the company, they were going to pair me up with you again. And I think I make a very like concerted effort to like I carry the bat into the ring and I never use it.
Oh, I love that.
I think like that experience definitely like changed the way I relate to using weapons, and I'm a high flyer, that's all I do. I am never trying anything like that again.
I love that. I love that. I love that you have this visual of like who you used to be, that you refuse to use it, and there's probably an element of like that you have it is enough. Like it is this symbol of like what you are capable of, even if you choose not to use it.
Yeah. And so when I finally come back to the company, and this is the goals that I was now free to pursue, is I'm just like a surprise entrant in a tournament. Yeah. In like whatever the like, 5-star Grand Prix like champion carnival equivalent is. Like this is like they're just like, and also X, and then we don't know who X is until like the main event of the first night. And I show up and there's this huge pop. And I think while we'd been competing, for our feud, like I'd technically been in the juniors division and you'd technically been in the heavyweights division. And so our matches against each other were like, special matches.
Yeah.
I think now I'm fully in the heavyweights division.
I like that. I love that. That's perfect.
And, whatever the critics had to say about it, your recent career has had its own highlights. Describe separately the greatest achievement each of you has managed on your own. Is it the height that you hope to achieve? Do you feel like you got the recognition you deserve for it? How do each of you feel watching the other's career from a distance?
I think the greatest achievement I manage on my own is I main event not a major show, like a secondary show. Like this title that like I've kind of claimed as like my belt. Like this is sort of like the Undead, like this is Undead's belt, right? Like in the like the IC title was Nakamura's belt. This is my belt. This belong, like, you know what I mean? Anytime somebody else is holding it, somebody looks to it and is like, all right, how long until he's back? Like he's taking a couple months off. I think.
Oh, it's called the Immortal title.
Oh, that's real fucking fuck. That's good. That's really good. Yeah. And so like I am holding this belt, like I think like I get to main event. It's not one of the shows that the actual main like title is being defended, so it's not the like otherwise that would absolutely like they would absolutely like give that spot the main event. But because there's not a title match on this show, they've put me at the top of the card.
Hell yeah.
And it's like the highest that I get, and I feel like it is I feel like I got the recognition that I deserve for this, like because I feel like this is more like I never wanted to be the singles guy, and then I've settled into this place. Like I'm like, this is more than I expected. Like I did not expect to be in this place. And
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like when you main event, like who's your opponent? Like, is it somebody like higher than you on the card, or like usually, or like lower, or what's the?
I think it is somebody higher than me on the card, and they're using it to, they're not going to give this person the belt, like they're not giving this person the Immortal belt, but they're using their loss to me to build them up to a main title match, because this is an MMA guy that has come in. So this is like their sort of first big star making thing. Like they're going to lose here, but they're going to look super tough going up against me for the Immortal belt. So that like in a month when they win a tournament, like it's like, oh yeah, we saw how tough that person was even when they lost. Like it's a little bit of a hazing of a test. It's a little bit of a, we're gonna show how tough this MMA guy is. It's a little bit of a, you're gonna learn from Undead. But like being in the ring with like a legitimate MMA star at the main event of this show is like the thing that matters. Like that is to me everything.
Totally. Oh, and I think when I come back to the company, like I think he beats me in the finals of that tournament.
Yeah, that feels good.
And he definitely has just like, it's like a one-word name, but it's like just like a normal like European name. Hans. His name is
Yeah.
Hans.
Hans, that feels good. That
Hans.
feels really good.
And he goes and he gets the belt. And I think after the tournament, I think I become the guy for this company who like, I'm a reliable mid-card guy. I main event a lot of the house shows, a lot of the like Road 2 shows. But
Yeah.
I think what I think of as the important parts of my career is that I help train people.
Oh, that's perfect. That's incredible.
Yeah, I think like when people talk about like the big events of my solo career, they definitely talk about my match with Hans and what could have been if they'd given me the belt. But like when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about like years down the road when people that I train start getting belts.
It's like, I mean, honestly, Hans is probably like one of them, right? Like he was somebody that came in from outside wrestling. He was somebody that like didn't have that background, and like you probably like had a role. Like you probably had a role as a peer, being the one that like pointed him into, here's how you transition from an MMA thing into an actual wrestling thing.
Totally. There's probably like a clip mirroring the montage from earlier with you where it's like me showing him how to sell.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
very
so
good.
yeah, and so like, and then I think like there's more clips like that as we see generations of wrestlers down the line. And I think like the knowledge that I have had this hand in creating like the history of the sport much more than like anyone who's like had any individual title reign. I think that's what I consider the height of my career. And I
love it.
I don't think people give me the credit for it because people don't like, people don't think of that when they think of like what makes a wrestler great.
I love it. That's incredible.
And, and watching your career from a distance, I think I'm just so proud of you. I'm like you found a niche, and I'd been thinking of myself, like for most of my career. And it was only when I'd like taken this step back that I realized like how far you've come.
I love that. That's incredible. Which brings us to our final match. This is it. One last dance. Describe alone how you announced your retirement and challenged your rival. Then I will describe my reaction and how we built up the match for the audience. We'll talk about what remains unresolved and what we can do to settle it now.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of those things where I'm the guy who does the openers with the young lions. I'm the guy who's like been putting people over in the mid card for a really long time. And so I think I kind of announced my retirement fairly unceremoniously at just like a press conference for something else, right? Like we're just like announcing an event, and I'm like, and they're like, and also El Inmortal would like to say a few words. And I like come out and I'm just like, after months of consideration, I would like to announce my retirement. As is the tradition in this company, I get to name my final opponent, and there's only one person it could be. And I think I don't have to say it. Everyone knows.
That sort of like my absolute actual favorite reaction in wrestling, which is just the like, oh. Like you hear that kind of like, you hear that slow gasp just wash over the entire like press room.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happens is like, I don't acknowledge it right away. Like I have a match that night, like the same day on like a Road 2 show. And like afterwards, like there's probably a moment where like somebody walks up to me with a microphone and like is like, so did you hear the news about El Inmortal? And I grab the microphone and I just like drop it. I just like not even addressing it, like not even saying the words.
Oh.
And like it takes several shows before like somebody like of them asking me, and like it becomes like a very specific plot point of like, why haven't I acknowledged this? And I think finally like what finally happens is like, you have to come out and like confront me. right? Like, and that gets like a really big pop of like, oh, now we're in the ring together, and people think that we're gonna start throwing hands, and finally, like, you get on the microphone and you're like, I am challenging you to my final match, and I grab it and I'm like, I grab the microphone and I'm like, I'm going to beat you, and when I do, like, I'm not going to let you walk away, you do not get to walk away until I am certain that you have given everything that you possibly can in the ring. So like it is a sense of like, if you truly think that you're going to walk away, if you truly think this is going to be your last match, if I don't feel like you have put everything in the ring, we will fight until I feel like you are done.
Oh God, and I take the microphone and I say, I will put everything on the line if you do. Mask versus mask.
Crowd goes electric. And I think it is. I think and again, like, I don't think I even acknowledge it, right? Like, I think I just like walk away. But I think like it is clear that like, even though I don't acknowledge it, and it seems like I walk away, like, there is no one in that room that does not feel like that was an accepted challenge. Yeah, no, totally. And I think one of the things that remains unresolved between us is just that like you won that match, right? But I think when you won the exploding bat match, like, because it had to end early, I think like after they pulled you off me, you just left, and you haven't acknowledged me since, not publicly. I love that. Yep. And so I think this is like maybe continuing a trend that has existed. And so like, in this way that, like, you know, I have to force you to acknowledge me. I love it. Because after all these years, part of you, or at least part of your character of undead, still feels slighted, like I was like intentionally overshadowing you. Yeah. And, you know, the line between like how much of this is character stuff and how much of this is real is complicated, as things are in wrestling. As things always are. In your heart, you know you're losing your mask tonight. Only a coward wins their retirement match. Describe the match together with your rival. How do you call back to your careers together? How do you say goodbye without words? It's got to involve a bat. Yeah. Ben feels that, like... Can I make a suggestion? Yeah. How do you use the bat? Oh, you know what it is? I don't think I'd bring a bat. I think I come out to our old tag team music. You come out to your music that you always do. And I don't have a bat with me. And I think you come in with the bat. I love it. Because this hasn't been who I am in a long time. I don't think I've actually used a bat since then. But you have. Yeah. You know, I don't, like, that was your first exploding bat match, but I don't think it was your last. I like that. I really like that. And so, like, I think, like, we enter and you know, like, obviously this company just like they know that people are going to watch this stream, so they're not trying to get sued, which is why they're using the old tag team music. Yeah. But, you know, like, this moment of, like, that music playing as I walk in, and you look me in the eye and you drop the bat between us. I love it. I think the other callback that I think is important is there is a moment where, like, I have knocked you down, and I pick you up, and I do a spin, like our old tag team specialty maneuver, and the crowd, like, loses their minds, and then I throw you straight into a turnbuckle. Oh, like, it is like, this is what we did together, and now I'm going to do it to destroy you. Like, I just hurl you hard into a turnbuckle just to break you just that little bit further. Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you do that, I think that's when I pick up the bat from you. And, you know, crowd goes wild. Like,
one of those, like there are definitely people there who are confused, but the people who paid to see us, the people who, like, still care about us, know that I haven't used a bat in years.
Yeah.
And I don't think you've used it. I think you've left it on the ground for me to pick up.
Yeah, it was never going to be something that I used.
And I think when you throw me into the turnbuckle, like, there's this moment where we lock eyes and I walk over and I pick it up and you look at me and, you know, you do that thing where the strong style guys do when they just, like, kind of point at their neck, like, yeah, fucking hit me.
Yeah.
It's one of those, and I, like, absolutely go for it. And you like look like you're gonna start to do an elbow strike in response, and then you, like, fall to your knees and I, like, hit you with the bat again on the back.
Yeah. And I know the finish of the match. It's gotta be that I put you in the crab and just, like, stomp on you right between the shoulder blades. And it is the most brutal that has ever looked. It's the first time that I've done it in years. And it's just, like, it is the final, like, I've put you down, right? Like, you are so good at selling. You are also so flexible that, like, your arms go back and they look like they've been dislocated, and you just look like you have been you look dead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, oh, you know, one thing that I can add to that, I think you put the bat under me when you do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Oh, that's very good.
So that you're not, like, hitting me with the bat, but you are stomping me into it. Like, you're making that yours very distinctly.
That rules.
Yeah, and I think, like, there's the pin, and, you know, like, all of our associates, like, you know, come to, like, do the ice packs and the little cooling spray or whatever. And I think after you get the pen, you just roll over, and, like, there's a moment where we're both laying there and the camera focuses on our face and we're talking to each other.
Yeah.
And, like, the audience can't tell what we're saying, but you know, like, we're, like, wiping the sweat off and we're starting to laugh again. And so, do you want to read the last paragraph, or should I?
Yeah. I can read it. When your mask is removed, make one last choice alone. Describe taking swift vengeance or describe reconciling with your rival. One way or another, you're going out on your own terms. And then I'll also read the next question, but I want you to answer that one first.
Yeah, of course. And I think we stand up, I take my mask off, and I hand it to you. And we shake hands, and I grab a mic, and you know, when we shake hands, the audience does the whole, like, oh, like, they respect each other so much, like they still love each other after all these years. And then I grab the mic and I say, well, you've earned this, but I think you've earned this too. And then I drop the mic and I pick up the bat and I hit you with it.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
And I'm like still going, and, like, you know, like, the ref tries to pull me off and I kick him off, and, like, a bunch of rookies that I trained, like, try to pull me off, and it takes like the person who is, like, currently the champion has to, like, run in, like, whoever the new young ace is. Yeah. And, like, to stop me. And I take the bat with me when I go. I put it up on my shoulders, and I, like, oh, no. I hold it up aloft, like, with two hands, like I used to do. And then I put it on my shoulders and I, like, swagger out.
That rules.
Like, with, like, my face is, like, you know, like you see it, like, superimposed on the person that I was. Like, you see me, you see the clip from the beginning of me, like, walking in, and then you see the clip of me now walking out. And, you know, my hair is all messed up from being under the mask. And, like, you know, obviously, like, it's been years and I'm, like, all, like, wrinkly and old, but, like, fundamentally you can see the same cocky grin on our face, right? And I think that's where I leave it.
I love it. So final question. As you grab a microphone to cut your final promo, your face in full view, what does your mask mean to you? What does your rival mean to you? And are you proud of the career you've had?
And I think by mask being removed, what that means to me is it represents a burden lifted.
Love that.
I think I am proud of the career that I've had, but I've realized that the things that I'm proud of aren't the things that people remember me as El Inmortal for. The things that I'm proud of are, under my real name.
I love it.
And I think what you mean to me is you actually are the wrestling star that I wanted to be and never was, and realized I was never going to be that person. And you made this niche for yourself. People remember you in a way that people are excited to see me as a cheap pop, as a surprise entrance. But once I've been around for a little while, nobody was actually hyped for my matches, because that wasn't who I was to this company, but you were. And I'm really proud that I got to help you get there, and I'm really proud of kind of what you've been able to achieve.
I love it. That's perfect. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, you were always the real star.
And that's game. That's oh my god, that's amazing. This was very good. This was very, very good.
Thanks. I was super nervous because I was like, I've never played this. Didn't play test this while I was writing it. I hope it'll work, and I'm glad that it did.
I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy with it. Thank you so much for playing it with me. This was such a delight.
Yeah, and thank you for playing with me as well. This was the most fun I've had in a minute.
This was wonderful. So real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you, your work online? And if there's anything else that you want to recommend, any wrestling promotions, shows, etc., this is the moment.
Yeah. So first off, you can find me on Twitter at Liana Edgelord, and that's with 2 N's, Liana. And you can find me. You can find my music on Bandcamp at garlicbreadandroses.bandcamp.com. If you're into, I don't know, if you're into country or folk punk or just, gay feelings, check that shit out. And you can find my games at garlicbreadandroses.itch.io. And including obviously El Inmortal Unmasked in the main event, and also hopefully by the time I finish this, Time and Space in an Old Familiar Face. And Something Happened and the Lights Are Out, which we also played on this podcast forever ago. I mean, we didn't, but the game was played. And
it was played.
Yeah. So go listen to that episode. And yeah, my favorite men's promotion in the world right now is All Japan Pro Wrestling, and I have nobody to talk to about it. So if you would like to watch that, you can find it on ajpw.tv. They upload some free matches on their YouTube account. Check them out. Wildly underrated company. And my favorite promotion is Stardom, World Wonder Ring Stardom, which you can find at stardom-world.com. It's a women's promotion, genuinely the best wrestling promotion in the world. It's one of those if you're not watching it, you're missing out kind of things. And I actually have a tattoo of the faction that means the most to me. I don't know if any of you heard about Hana Kimura. I'm not going to talk about that right now because I don't want to cry. But it was her faction. And I guess I just want to leave you with the motto of that faction, Tokyo Cyber Squad. Everyone's special. Everyone's different. That's Tokyo Cyber Squad. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me, and thanks again to Steph for coming onto the show. God damn, do I love professional wrestling, and I loved playing this game. I love telling this story. Thank you so much. This was such an absolute pleasure. Be sure to pick up your own copy of El Inmortal Unmasked in the Main Event, the acoustic cover edition at garlicbreadandroses.itch.io. Be sure to check out Steph's music at garlicbreadandroses.bandcamp.com, and be sure to follow Steph on Twitter at Liana Edgelord. Also, I am going to briefly say, if you enjoyed this game, you should also go to jeffstormer.itch.io and pick up the original version of El Inmortal Unmasked in the Main Event, because I think it is a much different game, but I think it is also very good. But that is neither here nor there, because while you are on Twitter, you should also follow us at Party of One Pod, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast, join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord, head to our merch store at bit.ly/partyofonemerch, and if you enjoyed the show, consider leaving us a nice iTunes review or Podchaser review, consider telling a friend about the show on social media, or just consider, sending us an email and saying you liked the thing because it's nice. It is nice to have it be acknowledged that you liked a thing that we made. You can also support the show financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer and ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. Both places help fund the show, the games that I make, all that kind of cool stuff. It's all really, really helpful. Now, if you are a fan of podcasts, I assume you could have been hate listening to this, but I'm willing to bet you at least enjoy podcasts a little. You should check out All My Fantasy Children, which is the other podcast that I produce every single week. AMFC is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast on the One Shot Podcast Network, in which every week, my best friend Aaron Catano-Sayas and I take a listener-submitted prompt, we spin it into an original fantasy character, and we populate a shared universe, one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday-ish at oneshotpodcast.com. Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates coming onto the show as a guest or about press coverage of the show, you can email us at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And I am pretty sure that's it, so until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance, and as always, party on, everybody.